Hey everyone, and welcome back to the NXpress Nintendo Podcast, episode 221. I'm your host, Cameron Daxon. Joining us, we have Marc Kaliroff.
Cameron, you may now call me the Prophet, because Mario Golf is here.
You know what? You're not wrong. And also, we've got Campbell S. Gill.
You may call me the pretentious devil because hell is frozen over for me right now. Texas is under 6 inches of snow, so I'm not a prophet, but I'm certainly devilish right now.
I love it. And joining us after a little bit of a break, we have Editor-in-Chief of Goomba Stomp, host of the Sordid Cinema Podcast, Ricky D.
What's up, Cameron? Once upon a time, they used to call me the prophet, and I think I lost it. But here's the funny thing. So this morning, I accidentally Googled Miitomo and landed on my review on the website, which I wrote 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that was a sign. And before the Nintendo Direct, we were talking on Slack, and I kept bringing up Splatoon. So my Spidey sense is still there. I just choose to ignore it.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? You don't want to become too powerful, is what it is.
So Mark is stealing my Spidey sense.
Yeah, I totally believe that. But you know what? It's okay. As long as everybody agrees to it, it's okay. So we've got a big show today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. That just came out last week, so we got a lot to talk about there. But even more importantly, a Nintendo Direct, at long last, finally happened today. So they dropped a ton of news. We're going to get into it. How do we want to do this? Do we want to just kind of start from the beginning? Do we want to talk about what jumped out at us? What's the play here?
I got a quick question. Has it really been 530 days since the
People
last
kept throwing
Nintendo
out
Direct?
530 days. Yeah, and I guess to me it doesn't feel that long because we had all those partner mini showcases throughout the last year.
Yeah.
But I guess it has been a long ass time since the last big one.
I'm not good at math, but I do believe that's more than a year.
As a matter of fact, yes, it is. That checks out.
We'll have to check with the experts and get back with that. But it's as of now, yeah, at least a year. I don't know. What were your guys' impressions? What did you think? How do you feel?
It was good.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was a year and a half of waiting good, but I don't think anything on this earth can be that good and to meet the insurmountable expectations of the Nintendo fan base. But for what it was pretty good. I don't think it was anybody expected, but it was good. It was
certainly not what I expected at all. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Campbell. It was okay. Thinking back, it was a solid Direct. At the time, I was like, this is none of the things that I'm excited for.
Right.
You really think it was a solid Direct? I don't think so. After being away for 530 days, I think expectations were high, which is, of course, the fault of us, the fans. But, I mean, Splatoon 3 is the big takeaway. I guess you can say Skyward Sword, but it's not a new game. So, I know Mark's excited about Mario Golf. I feel like it was a really random, weird Nintendo Direct where it didn't really have a flow or a pacing to it. And I think the problem with the current Directs, and I think this is why we are always sort of somewhat let down, is there is no longer an actual host or a face or a voice of the company. So no matter what they do, it always feels stale. It doesn't have the je ne sais quoi that we had back in the days with Reggie and Iwata.
That's true. Yeah, we had Aonuma showed up for a second to tell us that there will be no Breath of the Wild 2 news.
That was the best and worst part of the Direct, because I don't think my heart rate has jumped and fallen so quickly during any Nintendo announcement, because I was like, oh my gosh, now it's the time. Brutal. It's going to happen. And he's just like, you might be thinking that I'm here to say what you all want to see. But no, I'm not.
Nope, not even a little bit. Yeah, that was brutal.
It's somewhat problematic because you can tell that they're addressing the fans because they are afraid of getting a backlash, and that's not a good way to do business. You can't be afraid of your fans.
It's so true. Oh, and it's funny because Nintendo fans are. I mean, I know that there's a vocal fan base who are very rabid about everything they say, but there's also there's a lot of goodwill there, So it's interesting to see if it almost feels like they're taking this defensive posture of oh geez, don't be mad at us that we don't have any Breath of the Wild 2 news, Mm-hmm. But I mean, that being said, what did they start off with? They started off with the Smash announcement.
Yes.
So Mark, I know you were excited about that.
I am not.
Oh really? Oh shit. Okay, that's funny. Never mind. I completely misread that.
This is the wrong Xenoblade game.
Yeah, Rick
and
I.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, wrong Xenoblade game. Xenoblade 2, in my opinion. Listen, I know people love it. Rick already knows this about me. I think it's garbage. I really do. I think it's an absolute shoehorn into the Xenoblade universe. The whole plot's a disaster. The characters are unlikable. I really hate Xenoblade 2. But, the character looks like fun. She's clearly well designed. I mean, the whole switching in and out between Mythra and Pyra is cool. That's fine to me. As long as the character's fun, that's really what matters.
Actually, Mark, I'm totally with you. When we reviewed the game, whenever it came out, we just did not like it. We could not finish the game. It's the most boring Nintendo game I've ever played. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you just have to keep playing it for 50 hours. If I have to get to the 50-hour mark, that's problematic for me. There's too much to do, too many games to play. I can't wait for the 50-hour mark to start liking a game.
100% agree.
And I really like the idea of the character and where her story is sort of going, but I just feel like the build up there is just not there. I don't want to go into a huge Xenoblade comparison, but I love the first Xenoblade Chronicles. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, you've talked about it many times.
Reviewed the remaster. Yeah, gave the remaster a very glowing review. It's not that I'm not excited necessarily for this. I'm just I'm not a huge fan of the announcement. I think the announcement's cool. I'm glad we're getting more Xenoblade reps, but I'm just not blown away or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a really cool announcement, and even though I'm right there with you, Mark, in that I'm not a big Xenoblade 2 fan, adore the original, don't really like the sequel all that much, but at the same time, I know that Pyra and Mythra have been really strongly requested by the fans. Ever since Smash Ultimate was first announced, people have wanted them in the game, so it is cool to see them make an appearance. I'm happy for the people who do love Xenoblade 2, and at the very least, that trailer was actually pretty great. I loved
the trailer was all right.
I loved how it was just a bait and switch. I was kind of disappointed at first because I thought, oh man, more Xenoblade 2 DLC. Wow, the game's so old at this point. Then they're just nah, it's Smash, and I love it. So
they've gotten really good at those bait and switches.
Absolutely.
Over the years, I think, especially with this one, and I'm thinking of the Banjo-Kazooie reveal. Those have been really really solid lately.
I mean, you can never beat the Banjo-Kazooie reveal.
Yeah, that was the best one.
So. Big applause for the one person who actually wanted these characters.
Brent.
I mean,
Brent we got everything he ever wanted.
This Direct was custom made for him, and it was amazing.
This was the Nintendo Brent Direct.
So here's the thing: if I'm not mistaken, this is the final character that they're going to introduce into the game.
What?
No.
There's
There's 2 more DLC characters after this.
There's 3 more DLC after this.
I'm pretty sure. Was the last.
Oh, I thought there was one more.
No, there's 3 more.
Wait, we've all said different numbers. 2, 3 more.
That's funny. We're bad.
Someone do a quick search.
Well, as we said, we're not good at math. We already established this.
There's 2 or more. I'll say
2 more.
2 or more. It might be
because I feel that there's one major character in the world of gaming that needs to be included in its Crash. Because
oh yeah,
I mean, you can argue Master Chief, but in terms of the most iconic video game characters, it would be great if we can get Crash Bandicoot in the game.
I'm shocked that it wasn't Crash, especially because they announced recently that Crash 4 is going to be coming to Switch.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
the timing was too perfect because the announcement was made like last week, right? So like it lined up. And really, it would be beautiful to see Crash and Smash because we already have Mario and Sonic, two platforming rivals. Crash is like the only other big 3D platformer rival to Mario. So to have all of those icons in one game would be pretty amazing. So,
I'm still holding out hope, but I guess we'll have to wait for the next Direct, in another 530 days before we can.
2023, let's go.
That's right. It's going to happen. Okay, I got to ask you guys. So, as the resident Animal Crossing fans of the show, how do you feel about this?
Stuff is so good.
This
So good.
So
Lost
okay, you
my
got to walk me
mind.
through it because I saw some stuff and I was like, all right, there's like a pipe. Like I don't play Animal Crossing, so I don't really understand the significance of like, oh dang, you can use this pipe to move around or like that kind of stuff. Like I wasn't super sure what was happening.
So
Well-
what they did was they basically created a fast travel system across your island.
Wow. And that's unusual for Animal Crossing. That's not like a thing.
Completely unusual.
It's
That's
the
never
first.
ever been a thing.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
first.
But why is that not a thing, though? Just from an outsider's perspective.
Well, because you just like don't need it in Animal Crossing. It's just
Right,
like
right.
a really cool item that they're adding.
The thing about Animal Crossing is there's various items that you can acquire that eventually let you traverse the island in faster ways. Like, for example, there's a pole or a ladder. So, but the idea is that you want the person to walk through the island, explore, and see what you created. So you don't necessarily want them to skip a step and teleport from one end of the island to the far side of the island, right? But what's great about this, it's Super Mario. It's like Super Mario items. It's the pipe. It's a Mario costume. It's a Peach costume. You can create the Mushroom Kingdom. So I'm sure you've played a creator game like Super Mario Maker or
Right,
what
yeah.
have you. I mean, the idea is being able to create, in this case, the Mushroom Kingdom in Animal Crossing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I loved when he went down the pipe and he came up and there was Peach and the flagpole right there. I was like, all right, I see the appeal. Like it seems pretty cool. And I wonder if the villagers will get to wear like fun Mario costumes as well.
Well, Tim Mason, former host of this podcast, he has like the most amazing creations in Animal Crossing on the 3DS. Why do I forget the name of the game all of a sudden?
New Leaf.
New Leaf, right. So he has an entire town and village in his house, which is decorated and looks like sets from horror films. So it's amazing. It took him years to make it. He had to collect all the items and his whole entire town and his village and even his actual house. It looks like a haunted mansion. It looks like a graveyard. It looks like a spooky island. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, hopefully
The-
maybe get some booze in there, you know?
The reason why people like Animal Crossing so much is because of A, the community, B, because they like to create and specifically collect items and things, which a lot of us Nintendo nerds love to do, but also because it takes time. Like you can't just create this amazing island over the period of like a week or a month or even a year. Like for some people, it takes like 4 or 5 years to collect all of these items. The people who play it properly and who don't cheat.
There you go. Yeah. Not pointing out anyone in particular on this podcast, but So yeah, it seems like a cool update. I'm excited to see what people are able to come up with once that goes live. I kind of want to move on to the next, because the next one on the list, Campbell and I actually both spent a little time this afternoon playing the Project Triangle Strategy, the latest game from Square Enix. It seems like a throwback to the Final Fantasy Tactics style of gameplay, a tactical RPG. What did you guys think about this?
I haven't gotten to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded it. I was doing obligations for another review I can't talk of at the moment. But
So
Well, how dare
you guys actually played the game?
Yeah. Well, there's a demo. They announced during the Direct that the demo would be live once the Direct was over. And yes, sure enough, about maybe 45 minutes or an hour after the Direct ended, it popped up in the eShop. So Campbell and I both downloaded the demo.
Okay.
So yeah, I haven't beaten it yet. It's only been like it's been like an hour. This is the time of this recording. It's only been not that long since it ended. But so far, it seems pretty good.
Yeah, I've only played like 30 minutes of it so far. Something halfway through the first battle, I think.
Yeah, same.
I'll just say that I'm so proud that Square Enix is continuing the tradition of horrible working titles. Just because, man, PTS is brilliant. Parking Transportation Services is going to be the best RPG. But Octopath Traveler, when it came out like in 2018 or whatever, I don't remember exactly, that was one of my favorite games of the year. I absolutely adored that. So I'm really glad to see Square Enix kind of continuing that HD 2D style. And doing something new with it. I love the isometric camera angles they have. It really seems like an improvement on the style. And it's really interesting to see them tackling a new kind of gameplay genre as well. And so far from what I played, it seems good.
Yeah. Is this more Final Fantasy Tactics or more Fire Emblem?
As it stands, I mean, again, Campbell and I are both 20 minutes into this demo.
We're
knows?
experts on it, all right?
It seems like it's taking the storytelling conventions of Fire Emblem. There's different factions. There's even 3 distinct kingdoms that are kind of competing against each other. But it seems like the game... Again, I haven't played a Fire Emblem game, so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It seems more Final Fantasy Tactics. Because it is Square Enix,
See, my understanding was that the actual battle system is what resembles Fire Emblem, and the actual story itself resembles more Final Fantasy. I could be wrong. I haven't played it. But the fact that they call it Triangle Strategy, which I know is a working title, but it's more of a callback to, in terms of like what we think of right now in 2021, we think of Fire Emblem whenever we hear about the triangle system in this sort of like game when it comes to Nintendo. So this, the thing is, right before the Direct started, one of the things I said that I hoped for was to have a brand new IP, a brand new game, and here we have it. So it's not made by Nintendo, but it is exclusive to Nintendo, so to me that's a good thing.
Absolutely. No, I can't wait to play this game. I'm sure we'll talk about the demo more next week, but so far it seems really solid. I actually just wrote a piece for Goomba Stomp recently about how much I miss Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. So to me, this was instantly like, yes, this is the thing that I love. It felt really cool to just like dive right into that. So we'll see what it looks like, in when it releases in 2022.
Got some ways to go, but one thing that is really neat is that they are looking for feedback. They're going to continue what Square Enix has been doing for a while now and asking for feedback, and I really do appreciate when the developer allows for that.
I'm curious to see what, if any, lessons they learn from this demo. So then the next reveal, we were all talking about this on Slack as we were watching. The next reveal was a Star Wars thing, and Mark was like, "Cameron, this is it. We're doing Republic Commando," and then it was not that at all.
Yeah.
Instead, we got some kind of I don't know. It's called Star Wars Hunters. Seems like a
free to
like a
play
Fortnite
third-person
style
action game.
Yeah, like some kind of shooter. I don't know. It doesn't look good.
I love how they're trying to sell it by
we
saying
didn't even get to see gameplay.
I was going to say, so this is a completely new thing. It's not a port or anything. Yeah. I'm not tuned into the Star Wars game scene, so I wasn't sure if this was a recognizable name or not.
No, this is the first time we've heard of it. Wow. We didn't even get to see gameplay.
They were trying to sell it by saying that it takes place in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, like that means anything. Like, is anyone actually going to play this game and think that it's part of the lore and care about the story?
Seriously, yeah. Like
it looks awful.
It's funny because, I mean, as Mark said, sure, there wasn't really any gameplay shown.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see gameplay.
But I wrote it off instantly when I heard, like, free to play. Like, I was like, it's one of these. Like, I don't know.
I saw the trailer and I thought it was
myself.
Fortnite. I mean...
It sounds awful.
There you go.
There you go, yeah.
So who knows? Let's see, what else we got? Something called Knockout City. It looked kind of reminded me of Overwatch, to be honest. It was like
Campbell, take it away.
The dodgeball game.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually got a quick sneak peek of the game before it was officially announced. I didn't see too much more of it than what you guys saw, just a little bit of a gameplay. But yeah, it's a really interesting kind of experience. It's not the kind of thing that I would be super excited for personally. It does seem kind of like that typical multiplayer brawler, like you're mentioning Overwatch, even something like Fortnite, but the interesting thing is it's made by the same guys who made Mario Kart Live Circuit, so which is kind of interesting. So it's interesting to see them make that kind of shift. So I don't know, it's an interesting kind of thing, and I was completely surprised to see it come to Switch too.
You used the word interesting 7 times.
I was gonna say
7 times. Oh man,
it's like Campbell, how's your dinner? Oh, it's really interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah,
I would be like, oh no, like
oof. I'll just say that for a specific kind of audience, I'm sure it's great. I'm not a big fan of that. So
this is published by Electronic Arts.
Yeah, it's one of their indie game labels. Yeah,
this is the best they can do for the Switch. Thank you.
But look, they also brought Plants vs. Zombies over.
That's
That's
just a
support.
massive insult to the company.
Mass? Are you
Get 'em.
thinking that you want something else that's Mass Effect on Switch? Huh?
could happen.
Well, that is coming to Switch.
It is?
It's been listed like 18 times.
Yes, but it's not announced, though.
And
it'll be
it certainly
announced.
certainly wasn't announced during this direct.
Also, before the direct started, like 4 retailers listed that Prince of Persia remake, and it wasn't in the direct. And we even got box art from one developer, or not developer, retailer.
That's funny. Well, who knows? I mean, those are good games, so hopefully we get them at some point. Moving on though. Okay, so World's End Club. Did you guys play any of the Danganronpa games?
I've always wanted to, and I haven't. And when I was watching this trailer, I was like, finally. And then it shifted to the 2D stuff, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So it's the creators of Danganronpa. So it's like, I don't know. It seems like kind of like a weird, messed up, like, I don't know, fantasy world or something. Well, the characters will probably have really weird relationships. I don't know. Seems odd. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, actually.
I'm still interested.
Yeah,
Very
I remember hearing about it back when it was like, it's already been out in Japan, I want to say, I think.
interesting.
So I heard about it back then. I was like, whoa, the art style looks amazing. I heard about, I haven't played Danganronpa, but I know the reputation, obviously. And it looks really, not to use my bad word for the show, I guess, but it does look interesting, and I am intrigued to try it out. It does look like something that would be really exciting, and it looks like my jam. The story looks interesting. Again, the style is great. And I don't know, the inclusion of 2D, like, I don't know if it's platforming, exploration.
It seems like there's going to be some kind of side-scrolling platforming element, which is interesting. The Danganronpa games are good, but they do suffer from like that visual novel. The pacing is really slow, so you got to kind of get used to that.
I wonder if maybe they'll break up the pace then, add some more variety.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's
So
some
it could be
potential,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of visual novel, were you about to go into that?
Maybe. What are you going to say?
Famicom Detective Club is finally getting localized.
Yeah.
After like 30 years.
Which is wild, right? Like that's really unusual.
Yeah, I knew absolutely nothing about that game going into the trailer. I was like, oh, this looks neat. And then I was seeing on the Slack, Mark was like, you were like freaking out about this. So what's the story behind these games, Mark?
So the reason I know about them is that the main female protagonist of these games, originally Sakurai wanted her in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Well, she was supposed to be, she was like in the planning documents when he started making the roster. But then he took her out because he was like, well, the game's not in anywhere outside of Japan, so we're not doing that.
And then he put characters from Fire Emblem in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been interested in these games. They're just like visual detective novels from Nintendo.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know. I think it's an interesting move. I feel like I've played a little more visual novels lately, so I'm interested. I'm definitely intrigued. Especially, it seems like it's like a 2-pack kind of game. It's like 2 stories.
They made it clear that it's 2 separate games, though.
Yeah, it's like 2 separate games in one, so it's like, great.
No, you have to purchase them separately. They said.
Oh, that wasn't clear to me. Never mind.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
no, I was
separate
disappointed
purchases.
to see that little legalese.
Oh,
in
wow.
there.
I completely misread that. I assumed it was like a package deal.
Yeah, I know, but I guess since this is apparently a Nintendo published or developed game, you can't have that good of a value for one package. So
Get them.
yeah, so just to be clear though, these were developed and published by Nintendo originally.
Yeah.
These are remakes
These are
of Famicom games.
full-blown remakes. Yeah.
Are these brand new remakes, or have they been out in Japan for a while and now?
No, these are brand new as
Wow,
far as
okay.
I'm aware, at least.
Yeah, they look really cool. The one thing I do like is that, visual novels often seem pretty static in their visuals and stuff, but these look like they actually have some more animations and personality, and that was pretty
there's
cool
like voice
to see.
acting and stuff. Like, yeah, it seems cool. What's the name again? What's it called?
Famicom Detective Club, I believe
sure
is
they'll
the
change
full
that.
title.
I'm sure they'll change that.
No, I think they're sticking with it.
They have a full logo and everything, so
Yeah.
Well, never mind.
It's
What do I
literally
know?
just going to be called Famicom Detective
I
Club.
mean, they both have subtitles, but there's something weird in Japanese to English sounding, so.
You're right. Well, even though... Go ahead.
The original games were released on the Famicom. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they were.
Okay, because I was going to say it would be really weird if it wasn't included in our online subscription service, it has to be a complete remake, like a revamp, whatever you call it.
Well, they resold us Fire Emblem, so anything's possible.
Whereas Japan got it for free. So
Yeah.
Which is true.
Oh, they didn't get it free once. They got it twice. They got the Super Nintendo remake too.
Oh boy, don't get Mark started on the fact that they got the Super Nintendo remake. But something that did get Mark excited was the Hades physical release.
Yes, I'll finally be buying it.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice for a direct, to be like, oh, also this game that came out, 6 months ago is getting a physical release. I thought it was kind of odd, but good for them, I guess.
It's a game that's not even like published by Nintendo or anything, so it was really interesting to see Nintendo spotlight it. But I mean, it's wonderful though, because Hades is a game that deserves all the recognition it can get, and it's definitely been getting more than a little buzz.
Yeah, well, so props to the people who held out for the physical release. I know it's not usually my thing, but like I'm excited for you guys. It comes with a cool art book. I think a downloadable soundtrack. So it's like, yeah, it seems like a good deal. And Mark pointed out that the price seems to only be $35, which is really
according
good.
to Best Buy, they were the first to have a pre-order.
Considering that the game costs $25 on the eShop, only $10 more for physical plus all the goodies is really great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get it.
Can't fault that. Ninja Gaiden, you guys have any thoughts about that? The Ninja Gaiden collection?
Can't wait to play that too.
Same here. Awesome. And I mean, these games have a reputation for difficulty as well, right? But it's not on the same level as the NES games, though, right? Please.
I've never played the 3D Ninja Gaiden.
I've never played them either. I'm pretty sure though the first one is an Xbox exclusive until now. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was on PS2.
Wow. Yeah, I know the reputation they have. And it's interesting because I loved the original NES Ninja Gaiden games when they came to the Switch Online service, but I've never tried the modern revivals. So it'll be once again neat, I'll say, instead of interesting, neat to try them out.
The Ninja Gaiden game on Wii is amazing.
Which one is that?
I think it's just called Ninja Gaiden.
So that might be the first one.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the original 2 Ninja Gaiden games on the NES. I actually finished Ninja Gaiden 2 years ago on New Year's Eve. I was just playing Ninja Gaiden while waiting to go to a party, and I just zoomed through it because I played it so many times I can finish it with my eyes closed, even though it's super hard. But Ninja Gaiden on the Wii, which I believe was just called Ninja Gaiden, is a really good game. So I recommend it.
So Campbell, I know you were probably excited about the Hyrule Warriors expansion situation.
Absolutely. I was really excited to see that show up in the Direct because I felt like knowing the track record of Warrior-style games, it was a given we were going to get DLC for this. But it was interesting that we didn't actually get the announcement of DLC until like months after release. So it was good to finally see it, even if I was a bit disappointed that they didn't actually show much of substance from what we can expect from this pack. They just said that a DLC pack is coming out. You can expect a, quote, expanded roster, and I believe a few other extras as well, like new stories and missions, which is cool to see, but it was a shame that the announcement didn't actually show much of that. So it was neat to see, but I wish they showed a little more.
That's what I mean about how this Direct seemed a little bit of a random kind of mess. Like, I know COVID is not helping the situation, but if it's been over a year and you've taken this long to announce the expansion pack, could you not have told us a little something about the expansion pack? Because an announcement of an announcement is not really a big announcement. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, one kind of embarrassing thing that was in the Slack as we were talking about this as we were watching the show was they just focused on the little, his name's Terrico, the little mini guardian that you have in the game. And they kept focusing on him in the announcement. I was like, okay, are they going to show something with him? Is he going to have like new abilities or something? Then they focused on him so much, and it turned out that like that wasn't for anything. It was just like random cutscenes and stuff. They had some cool looking new art, but nothing of substance. So the new DLC characters, I believe, have actually been leaked at this point. So I believe I already know who's going to end up in the game. So it was really strange that they want to show that at this point. So.
Well, especially when they give you a price of $26.99, like $27. What am I getting?
Right. But you can pre-order it now because apparently they're just going to bank on people loving the game so much that they're going to get it anyway. And honestly, I'm teetering on the edge of that anyway, just because I want more content in this
Yeah.
game.
Well,
so.
does the pre-order get you anything?
I'm not aware of that right now.
It says here in the
Yeah.
press release, you'll also get an additional in-game weapon and costume for Link as purchase bonus starts on May 28th.
Aha.
That's
On
weird.
May 28th, that's
I know, it says
well in
May 28th. I
advance.
don't understand that.
huh.
It's very odd. Yeah, I think that was the other thing that kind of started to. I know this is not related to any games, but the thing that started to really bug me after a while is like, wow, I feel like all of these games are really far out.
Yeah, especially considering that the announcement said games coming in the first half of the year, or games
Which
are currently available.
I guess technically May is the first half of the year.
Yeah, but like half of the games were either holiday or 2022.
Yeah, that was
really.
very strange. Yeah.
Were they?
I mean, not half, but
A good
large
amount.
portion of them. Yes, I was slightly.
Well,
hyperbole.
I feel like the majority were coming out in like the next 2 or 3 months.
Well, it's true, but also, I mean, a lot of it was like reminders of games we already know about, like Ghosts and Goblins, Bravely Default 2, like that kind of stuff, where it's like, okay, well, we already know this is coming. It's like I thought it was sort of odd that they devoted time to those games in the direct.
Yeah, but the most exciting games were the ones that are coming out next year. You know, Splatoon 3, Project Triangle Strategy. I have to keep remembering what that working title is. Those are coming out next year. So,
Which is
To
kind
be
of
fair, they
problematic.
did give you a demo of
right,
that game, though.
that's true. That is true, which is good. So it kind of is far out, but it's also already in our hands. So that is an interesting exception. So
Go ahead,
But
Rick.
what worries me is that apart from Mario Golf, which I guess we can talk about soon,
Yes.
what is like the big Nintendo game for 2021? Because
Yeah.
I know we still are early in the year, and we're most likely going to get some sort of like E3 Nintendo Direct right around June, which I'm hoping will announce some sort of like huge announcement of a game that's coming out at the end of 2021, like close to the holiday season. But right now I'm worried because it looks like it's going to be a really dry and slow year for Nintendo.
Yeah, Rick,
Yeah.
that was the exact question I had. But what I feel is going to happen is kind of a repeat of what we had in 2019, I think, where Pokemon comes in and fills the big holiday game. They had Sword and Shield in 2019. I think that this year we're going to get some sort of big Pokemon game, whether that's a Diamond and Pearl remake or some sort of Let's Go game. That's going to be the holiday title.
Yeah. And speaking
you-
of, everyone is always like, oh, we're going to see Pokemon in the Nintendo Direct. And we honestly, like, if you look at their history the last, like, 5 years, we haven't seen Pokemon in Nintendo Directs. They're always in,
No,
like,
they
their
they
own
never
things.
they never
Yeah.
ever put Pokemon in Direct. They always do it separate. It's only happened one time. I can't remember what it was. We talked about it on the
Pokemon
NXpress
X and Y.
podcast.
Yeah.
I think so. There's one time we talked about on the podcast was the very first and only time they ever put Pokemon in an actual Nintendo Direct. I was teasing on Slack when I mentioned that earlier because the thing about Pokemon is I personally do not like the franchise, but I get it. It makes money. It's a moneymaker. People love Pokemon. It sells consoles. But every single person I know who picked up a Nintendo Switch that hasn't had a video game console, or at least a Nintendo video game console in years, they picked it up for games like Zelda, Mario, Splatoon, you name it, not for Pokemon. These dudes and dudettes who are like 30 years old or 40 years old or 35 years old or 28 years old, they're older, they are not playing Pokemon. So we need more than Pokemon to sell consoles and to sell, like, Nintendo just needs more than Pokemon. Like, I know it's the 25th anniversary, but come on, guys.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Like, obviously, Mario Golf, I guess, is the thing this summer. I have no attachment to that series. I know, Mark, you were like super high on that game, but like,
Yeah, I used to play the GameCube one, Toadstool Tour. I played it so much as a kid with my brother. And yeah, I think this one looks great. I love the new modes they're adding. They look like a lot of fun. The only thing I'm really concerned about is that graphically, like, it looks great graphically, don't get me wrong, but like Toadstool Tour had like this very different direction to it, and it was like these super detailed environments like flowing with like obstacles and stuff, and it doesn't look like they're really doing that with this game, but maybe we only saw like 2 or 3 courses, so you know that obviously can change.
Did you play Golf Story?
Golf Story? Oh, no, I have not played that one.
Okay, so Golf Story is one of my favorite games on the Switch. I would put it like top 10. It's that good. It's amazing. So play Golf Story. But the reason why I'm excited is because this has a story mode. And if the story mode is as good as the story mode in Golf Story, I mean, Golf Story is pretty much a story. But that excites me, right? Like that excites me because then you get a Mario Golf game, but it also comes with a story mode. You can play online, multiplayer, couch co-op, you name it. And Cameron, I'm not the biggest fan of golf, but I went on Twitter after the direct was over, and everybody was raving and going crazy over this game, which maybe goes to say something about the actual quality of the Nintendo Direct overall. But everyone was like flipping out over Mario Golf.
Yeah, I think you're right. So clearly, there's a lot of love for this series, and you know what? Good for you guys. What else? What else? Collection. What was it? Something Mana. Legends of Mana.
Oh yeah, that one looked really interesting.
That looks great.
Yeah.
A PS1 game, remastered for the Switch. I'm so down. Give it to me. Give me all the weird RPGs. I want them.
It's so cool that Switch has suddenly become this hub for the Mana series of all things.
The only problem is I played Legend of Mana like about a year ago. So it sucks for me because I just played the original game and now they're finally releasing it with high definition graphics and I'm like, I'm never going to play it again.
Yeah, right.
It's a really slow game too, and it's long for a game that was made like forever ago. So
they're remastering another game, Saga Frontier. Did any of you guys play this?
Nope.
I have not. I know
I had
the
I had never heard of it.
reputation of the game, or I know at least part of it. That's one of those like weird. I trying to remember what the reputation was something about like the way the party is really flexible and the story is really adaptable for the time, right? Like I remember hearing something about that, but aside from that reputation, I don't really know too much about this game.
I think the big thing about this game is it has 8 heroes, 8 protagonists, and 8 different journeys.
Oh,
so I'm
it's like
assuming it has
Octopath
8
Traveler,
different
huh?
endings. Yes, exactly.
That's where I remember hearing about it, because everybody compared Octopath Traveler to this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. And that's coming out in April. That was one of the sooner ones. That's the other thing. It was like so many of these games. I was like, oh wow, I'm excited for this game. Oh, I know that if 6 months from now, I'm going to forget about it. To be honest, so this one, the fact that it's coming out a little sooner, got me like, okay, I'm like a little bit hyped for it. I feel like we should talk about the last big 2 reveals before we kind of wrap the discussion on this direct. But is there any other things you want to shout out before we talk about Zelda and Splatoon?
What about Miitomo?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No,
there you
not
go.
Miitomi.
There you go.
Miitopia. To correct you.
Miitopia, sorry.
Yeah,
Miitopia. There you go.
Miitopia.
Please talk about Miitopia. I know nothing about this.
Well, I mean, we can't really talk much about it because we don't know much about it either. But it's like bringing back the Miis to the Switch.
The
So
Wii's.
would we call them the Swees now?
The
Swees.
Because everyone was upset when they got rid of the Miis. You know what I mean? So it's like, for the community, it's really exciting. And I like how they mentioned something in the trailer. It was really, really weird where you could have like an overlord, like someone who is like god of your world or some craziness. Like, I didn't understand what that meant.
This
You know
game
what
was
I'm saying?
on 3DS.
They called
though.
him. They called him the Dark Lord. You could have someone who becomes the Dark Lord. What does that mean? Who becomes a Dark Lord? If I'm the Dark Lord, can I change the way you look? Can I change your eyes and your hair color and your clothes? Can I kill you? It's so weird.
that was really weird. I was curious about that too.
Rick
It was like,
questioning
the Dark
his-
Lord
yeah.
Stan. I was like, who's Stan?
And they're like, you can have a horse as a friend.
Yeah, no, that was a surprisingly important selling point that they emphasized
Of
in
course.
this. I'm like, okay, well then every RPG ever has
I mean,
the
I'm
same
not
selling
even-
point.
I'm not even lying. I'm excited for this because this is why I love Nintendo. When Nintendo gets weird, sometimes it's just like it's so weird, it's good, and you can't help but not have a good time with it. And I think that this might be one of those games that surprises everyone, that everyone's just gonna love. And I feel like I think that this game is going to blow up because of social media. I think people are going to go to Twitter and Facebook and create these forums on Reddit and whatever and share their little Miis and their world and their Dark Lords and their horses. And it's just going to be one of those things that people are going to create memes out of it. I think it's going to be a huge hit.
I'm curious if this is a remake.
Yeah, that was my question as well, because this was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was on 3DS with heavy Street Pass functionality, right?
Yes, and then it became its own game.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so they basically made it twice.
Right, because the thing I mostly remember this for is this has a stage in Smash Ultimate, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's what really jogged my memory about it. I don't remember the game itself too much, but I remember the stage, so.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what that game even looks like. I didn't like I had a Wii, but I didn't get heavy into the Mii stuff.
Well, did you ever play Tamagotchi Life?
No, Tomodachi Life.
Okay.
No.
It's really hard to explain. I've only played the RPG, the actual game on the 3DS, like a few times because my friend had it. I never actually had the game. It's just this really weird game, but I don't know. I'm excited. I have a feeling it's going to be, because I think even in the original game, like I think there was like a Dark Curse and a Dark Lord and all this like weird stuff, right? So it seems to be a direct sequel, not like a remake, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the time to come. That was coming out sooner rather than later, right? Did I imagine that?
Yes, it's coming out soon.
Yeah.
According to the press release, it's coming out on May 21st.
Yeah, so technically the first half of the year, 5 months in. So yeah,
Game of the Year contender. I'm telling you, man, it's going to land on our top 5.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be one of those things that catches on with social media and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see what comes out of it.
But the thing is, so this game, like I think Campbell, you mentioned the whole Street Pass thing, right? So the thing about the Nintendo Switch is we don't have anything that's similar to Street Pass, and I'm not entirely sure why we don't, because the whole thing about the Switch, it's a hybrid console. And they really emphasize the fact that you can take it on the go, and everybody
Rick, we don't even have a web browser.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially now that we have the Switch Lite, it's so strange that you don't at least have some sort of social media functionality that, as people are out and about and playing all their multiplayer-friendly Switch games, the console that is perfect for local multiplayer, there's not that kind of social aspect that you had with the 3DS. So it's so strange. I wonder how they're going to replicate that for Miitopia. Or carry on what they did in the 3DS version and see if there's any effort to try and keep that social aspect.
Yeah, I'm hopefully they can find a way to do that, because I know that's part of the appeal is the social part of it. So we'll see what happens. What else before we talk about Zelda and or Splatoon? That was kind of it, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else.
Well, I'm kind of excited about Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. It just looks like a really straightforward like platformer. Looks fun.
I'm
cautiously
excited about that.
I was gonna say, Rick, I'll have more to say about that in a couple days.
Oh, really? So you've played
yes.
it? You're the,
Well,
you're
no.
the one that's
You're allowed to
reviewing
talk about it.
Am I allowed to talk about it? Oh yeah,
Yes,
I played
you're
it
allowed
for.
to talk about it.
All right. Well, we won't do it right now because we're talking about other things. But I have played a little bit of it since the direct ended and we started recording. And guess what? It's really freaking hard.
Okay. Is it the level of the originals, though?
I have played a little of the original, and I played a little of Super Ghosts and Goblins. There are some things it does to kind of modernize a little bit. Listen, we'll talk about it another time. This is not the time.
Okay, but you
also,
got me
we'll talk
excited.
about,
that's what I wanted to hear.
Rick, if you're excited about like the old school like Capcom difficult platforming game, like then you will like this game.
Cool.
Based on my limited time so far.
Next week we have a lot of Capcom to go through.
I mean, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. So we got to talk about the Zelda non-reveal because it was probably outside of Splatoon 3, probably the biggest news story of this direct was Aonuma coming out and being like, sorry, no Breath of the Wild, but we got HD Skyward Sword. I actually never played Skyward Sword, so I am tentatively excited. I don't know.
Do you like motion controls?
No.
No. So you won't like Skyward Sword on the Wii? You know, Skyward Sword actually has an amazing story. I love the lore. I love the characters. I love the final boss. I love the villains. I love just about everything about the game except for the motion controls.
So this sounds like this remake was made for you.
Well, I mean, I still like the original. I'm like one of the few people at Goomba Stomp who still actually likes the original. A lot of people just fell out of love with the game. I think actually Mike loves it. Me and Mike were the only two. But the thing about this game, it's again, I like it when a developer gives you options, and they gave us the options of using the motion controls and or not. So I can actually use my Pro Controller. And you know what? I'm going to use my Pro Controller.
That was my thought, was like, my main concern was they showed like, oh, you can slash with the right thumbstick. And for me, it's like, well, okay, wait a second. How are you going to move the camera around? So I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do that workaround.
Yeah, but in the original game, the camera was already like working on its own, and you could only like use, I think, was it the C button or something, or one of the trigger buttons to turn it around. So they probably moved the camera to one of the shoulder buttons, perhaps, or one of the face buttons. So I assume that that's how that works. So you don't have to worry about the camera, and you just use the right stick.
But you know what's funny is I prefer to play Galaxy on the Wii, not on the Switch. Like, I know I have the 3D All-Stars, so of course I got Mario Galaxy 1. I played a few levels. It's great, but I would much prefer to play it on the Switch with the actual motion controls, like the Wii controller, the Wii remote. It was incredible the way they made that game specifically for that type of control and for motion controls. With Skyward Sword, I wasn't a fan. It just did not feel as fluid and natural, and it was just problematic. And like especially with the camera, I just felt it always got in the way of me enjoying the actual game. So what kept me playing the game was because it's Zelda and the stories and the lore, and I want to know how it ends, right? But not because I was so much having fun with the gameplay. It was okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the few Zeldas I've actually sunk like 4 hours into.
Wow.
And the motion
4
controls.
whole hours. Wow.
Yeah, the motion controls were so I just could not get them to work, and I just gave up on the game.
Meanwhile, here I am with, I think my last playthrough of it was like 50 hours or something.
Oh my God.
Back when this came out, it was my jam. I adored this game back in the day. I played it, I want to say 4 times end to end, because once on the normal playthrough, then another on like master mode. Looking back on it, I recognize there were a lot of issues with it. There was the heavy linearity, the motion controls, the camera, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, the story is probably the best in the series, bar none. That's what I'd say. The relationship between Link and Zelda is incredible. Some of the puzzles and the dungeons are really well designed. The bosses, likewise, are really engaging. So, and the music is great too. The world itself, yeah, the world building too is just a pleasure to explore. Even if you don't really get the chance to interact with it like very dynamically the way you would in, say, Breath of the Wild. But it's still, there's a lot to love about this game, and I really did enjoy it. I'm really interested to see how it holds up on Switch without the motion controls. I mean, you still have the motion controls optional, but to see how it holds up with a controller now.
Put it this way, Cameron. I once said on the podcast that if I ever had a chance to make a TV series and or movie based on a Zelda game, I would choose this game, this story, this world.
Okay. All right.
Okay, yeah.
The story is very good, at least from what I've played. I'll back you up. But the thing was, I got stuck on a flying section, and I just could not get through it because of the motion controls. I kept like dive bombing and stuff, and I just gave up.
Yeah, the flying sections can be kind of rough if you're not set up well with the motion controls. And that is also one of the bigger things that I dislike with it too. That the world itself, the overworld, it's really barren and empty, and it just leaves you to fiddle with the motion controls. So even if I do want to use like the Joy-Con motion controls on Switch, I would probably switch to using the manual control sticks and stuff for that section, just so I wouldn't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's we'll see what happens when it finally comes out, but I'm intrigued. As one of the few Zelda games I haven't actually put any time into, I'm excited that it's coming to a system that I love. It should be good.
And I will say one more thing about this game. The Joy-Cons that they're releasing for it are downright gorgeous.
They're
They
okay.
are.
They're pretty cool. Yeah.
I want one.
I know, even if you don't play the
They
game,
look really good.
they're amazing. Like, the design is beautiful.
During the announcement, one of the things I wrote on Slack was like, oh, great, now I need to buy Joy-Cons. And then afterwards, they announced that you don't need to play the game with Joy-Cons. You can actually play with just like a standard controller. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to buy Joy-Cons. And then they release the image of the Joy-Cons. I'm like, okay, now I have to buy Joy-Cons.
It's quite
But
a roller coaster.
my Joy-Cons just are messed up because of the whole drift issue. They just do not
you know
work
what?
at all.
I finally started experiencing some drift in my my left Joy-Con. So
welcome
we'll see
to
what
the
happens.
club.
I know, it was bound to happen. Bound to happen. Now I can replace them with these beautiful Zelda Joy-Cons, so it's gonna be great.
If they're
And now-
available.
Now we can talk about the one game that everyone loves and I just don't care about, or the one series, Splatoon.
How dare you,
Splatoon.
Rick?
Yeah, just can
Right
never
there
get
with
into it. I mean, I have
yeah.
Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2, and I feel like I wasted my money. I have them in my collection just so I can say I have it in my collection, but I just never got into Splatoon.
I love
Yeah,
Splatoon.
I never played the first one. I picked up the second one last summer, and I've enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I haven't played it for 6 months, but I played it a lot in the month or two after I got it. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. The trailer was interesting.
Oh yeah.
It looked like to borrow a phrase from Campbell, but it looked kind of like Borderlands-y, desert post-apocalypse kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what they do with the lore. I'm curious about that.
That's what really caught my interest because it was so like cinematic opening it to the point where I was wondering if it was actually going to be straight up a Splatoon sequel or if it was going to be another kind of narrative focused spin-off like they did with the what was it called, Octo expansion. So yeah, but it's full on Splatoon 3, and I'm right there with you guys. I'm not a huge fan of the series or anything, but it will be pretty interesting to see where it goes because it looks like it's going into some new territory here.
Yeah, I think
do,
it'd be really...
I want to say, I do want to note that if you are a fan of Splatoon, you got to check out the social media, and it's because it was basically like telling a story leading up to this, and it was about the two characters from Splatoon 2. They were like going around the world, and the last trip they went to was Paris, and there's like an artwork piece of them at the Eiffel Tower, and then at the beginning of this trailer, the Eiffel Tower is completely flipped over in the sand.
I just saw that on Twitter. That's brilliant world building right there.
That's really funny. What were you going to say, Rick?
Well, it's because I'm reading the press release, and it says it's introducing new weapons, new customization options, yada, yada, everything you would expect. But what I would be excited to see is if it had some sort of larger open world area in which you can go from one map to the next map. Like go from... Like imagine if there's like 4 maps. So you can start fighting or whatever you call it, like splatting people on one map, and then take off and go ride a dune buggy across the desert and end up on a second map, and then have a third map and a fourth map. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys.
It does not, to me at least.
No, he's saying like, will there be like a more interconnected world?
Why would there have to be though?
Well, there doesn't have to be. It's just like it seems like they're going that direction.
Because I just thought
No,
it would be really cool
maybe
if-
for the single player, for like the for the single player maybe, but for the multiplayer, there's no reason to, because Splatoon focuses on, close quarters combat. It's all about going into like a tight zone and utilizing space.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I think it would be interesting to try something new and open it up and have 4 different zones, and you can travel from one zone to the next zone. So when you're in an actual zone, it has a tight, closed space, but then it also has the open space.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know. We'll see. That's the thing. We don't know yet.
Because the reason why I say this is because when you watch the trailer, like Campbell says, it's this open desert. Everything looks more opened as opposed to claustrophobic and closed in like previous games. It just has a completely different vibe to it. Like you're talking about a bunch of squids walking through the desert. That doesn't sound normal. They should be walking through the ocean or swimming through the ocean.
I think that's just all intended for the campaign.
Yeah, but at the same time, I have to wonder what's such a slow burn opening for the trailer. That has to be intentional. That has to signify, like, not just building anticipation, but it has to signify something major for the game itself. And I really have to wonder what they're planning there. Whether that is more open environments, a more ambitious single-player mode, perhaps. We don't
I think
really know.
single player, only because it's probably something to, I don't know, like sand crabs or something are going to be the villain this time. Like,
I don't know. I mean, it also looks like kind of post-apocalyptic, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's clear that, sand has taken over the entire place.
I mean, the story of the series is already relatively dark if you think about it. So I wonder if they're going to keep leaning into that now.
I don't think it looks post-apocalyptic. I think it looks futuristic. It has the typical futuristic squid-like city that just happens to be surrounded by a desert.
It reminded me of Mad Max, kind of.
Yeah.
Because it's a desert? It's just a desert, guys.
No, not even just like the opening of the Inkling sitting there and then
Right,
like
with the
rips off the
hood and-
mask.
yeah.
No, it's
Oh,
just a
because there's-
desert. Mad
Okay,
Max has
right.
copyrighted the desert,
Yeah.
so
That's right. Anything desert is only Mad Max. So it should be good. I don't know. I'm excited. Those kinds of
Yeah,
games
same.
are, like, I don't know. Half of the fun of those games is having friends and a community to play with.
yeah.
So hopefully they've expanded their like online connectivity options and they can build a great community because it could be great.
Don't you think it's sort of a letdown if Splatoon 3 is so similar to Splatoon 2, which it was very similar to Splatoon, the original Splatoon, that all we really get is extra weapons? Because there's a lot of like first-person shooters out there that are free-to-play games where they just update the game every like few weeks with new weapons, new items, new costumes. Like if we're paying $90 for a game that's going to be pretty much the exact same thing as 2, except they're going to give us a few extra weapons, to me that's a letdown.
Honestly, the map design in Splatoon 2 was so much different, and then the single player campaign was like a whole different beast that I think it's fine.
The single-player campaign justified the price of Splatoon 2. That I will agree with, guaranteed. Because the first game, the single-player mode was, I remember it being super short.
Yeah, it was. And 2 also added oh my god, what is it called? The extra game mode where you have to team up with 3 people and then they send you to like a shipyard.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Never played it, yeah.
Yeah, cannot remember what that's called.
I forget what it's called, but you have to like collect shells and then like boss battles like come up. It's like a survival mode.
Some sort of fish pun, but I can't remember what
Yeah.
it is.
But they had like that. They had a whole bunch of new online modes for it. So I think it's justified.
Yeah, it should be cool to see what they come up with. If the expansion from 1 to 2 is any indication, the expansion from 2 to 3 should be really, significant. So we'll see. Anything else we got to talk about? I mean, I don't know, Fall Guys, Apex Legends, any of those?
I'll just say it's
Not
neat to
much
see
to
Fall
say.
Guys on that, and that's it, you know?
Yeah, it's out there. They're coming. Those battle royales are coming.
No More Heroes 3?
No More Heroes.
Oh,
3,
yeah,
there you
I
go.
forgot that.
That'll be good. That'll be good.
That looked amazing. I'm glad to see they're keeping up the extreme weirdness with this trailer, with all the different mini games and stuff. There's really nothing like No More Heroes out there, and it's great to see that series continue.
And it's coming out August 27th. So we know we're going to get No More Heroes this year. We're going to get Mario Golf 2021 and Bravely Default. which
Monster
is
Hunter Rise
this
also.
month, yeah.
Pokemon
exactly.
Snap, presumably another Pokemon game on top of that.
Maybe Detective Pikachu too.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if we get a Pokemon Direct in the next few days.
I mean, isn't Pokemon
Really?
Day next week?
Yep.
27th?
Anniversary is 26 or 27th.
26?
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they don't have a Pokemon Direct to celebrate that. Also, hasn't
they will.
Hasn't
They will.
Cerebi already hinted at that it's gonna be a big Pokemon Day?
He may have.
No idea.
I
Haven't kept up with that.
I thought I saw that it was just like Pokemon Day is coming up and it's gonna be a good one. Wink, wink, or something like that. Winks added for emphasis.
That's all the information I need to get excited.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, we'll see what shakes out in the next couple of days. So we're gonna wrap it up here, and then we're gonna take a quick break, come back, and talk about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, because I know we all have thoughts about this game. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. And we're back. All right, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Mark wrote the review. This is one of Rick's favorite games. Campbell's been playing it for the first time after not enjoying it on the Wii U. This is my first time ever touching this game in any capacity. We got a lot of thoughts. Who wants to start it off?
Can I just say that this is the reason why we started the NXpress podcast? I mentioned this on the last episode I recorded with Tim and Patrick, but basically one day I went to Future Shop and I needed to buy a video game console, or I wanted to buy a video game console, and I had the Wii U and the PS4 in my hand. And I needed to decide at the last minute, for whatever reason, I just decided to pick the Wii U, and it was because it was packaged with Mario and I think it was Nintendo Land. And also, it came with a controller. And so I just got a better deal as opposed to just buying a PlayStation, still needing to buy a game and a controller, etc., etc. So went home with the game. My niece and my nephews were over that weekend. And we played the entire game all weekend. We didn't 100% complete the game, but we beat the game. And then later throughout the year, we went back and we tried to get all the stars. And I just fell in love with this game that I was like, I need to start a Nintendo podcast. So I emailed Tim. I'm like, dude, you love Nintendo. I know we've never met. You want to start a Nintendo podcast? And we started a Nintendo podcast because of this very game. I think that this game is unfairly treated and criticized because I don't think that people understand how hard it was for the team over at Nintendo to make this game. We're talking about over 100 people worked on this game. And the reason why it was so hard was because of the double cherry, because of also having 4 people play a Mario platformer, a 3D Mario platformer at the exact same time. I don't know about you guys, but when I play this game, I can't comprehend how they made the game. Like if I'm watching WandaVision or a TV show, any other TV show or movie, I understand how they do things. I understand the concept of editing. I understand how they have like 3 cameras and they go into post-production. They cut from the close-up to the far shot to the medium shot, etc., etc. Like I might not understand how they do special effects in like big superhero movies, but I understand the concept of filmmaking. Like I've actually made short films. When I'm playing this game, I can't wrap my head around how these dudes actually programmed this game so I can play with 3 more people at the exact same time. I think this game is ingenious, and then I hear people on YouTube criticizing the game because they don't like the fact that the background is blurry. Like, dude, when you're playing the game, you're not even focusing on the background. What are you talking about? Like, you're looking for these things to nitpick about. And I find it so mind-boggling how people are so easy to criticize video games when they themselves could not even do the opening scroll or the logo for the actual game. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but I think this game is amazing. I just don't understand how people think it's not.
Yeah, well, I think, anybody who criticizes video games will always... Like, the people who criticize video games very often cannot make a video game. I think that's, you know what I mean? Much less a game as complicated as, and just utterly whimsical as this kind of game.
But what I mean, Cameron, is like, I'm all for critical discussion. I mean, we do podcasts, you know, like I've hosted like about 8 podcasts in the past like 10 years, everything from video games to movies, and there's a critical discussion and a debate, and we talk about the making of the game or movie and what we liked and what we didn't like. But I feel like way too often, because people don't understand the process of making a video game, they need something to say. So they end up just like nitpicking, and they mention things like stupid things like, oh, the background's blurry. You're saying that because you don't have anything else to say, because you don't understand how they actually made the game. Anyhow, sorry for the rant, but I just think that this game is awesome. Like, I love how it mixes the traditional 2D platformer with the 3D platformer, and I like the fact that they didn't actually make Mario Galaxy 3. And a lot of people wanted Galaxy 3, but then when Galaxy 2 came out, everyone complained it was the exact same game as 1, so people didn't like Galaxy 2, which, by the way, I think Galaxy 2 is better than 1, but that's a conversation for a different podcast.
Did people complain about that game?
Oh yeah, Galaxy 2? Yeah, you can find articles on our website. Yeah. There's so much to love about this game. And if you go back and you look at the Wii U, this has got to be like on the top 3 games on the Wii U, which might not be saying much because the Wii U didn't really have much of a fighting chance, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a big, huge success. But this, along with Bayonetta 2, are 2 of the greatest games made for that generation. And I will always never ever regret buying a Wii U just because I got a chance to play those two games that year. And when I made my end of the year list, I was able to put those two games on the list. Whereas people who didn't have the Wii U, in my opinion, didn't play the two best games of that year because they didn't have a Wii U.
Yeah, I think bringing it to Switch, I think, is the move for sure. It's been a delight to actually experience this game, and to know that a bunch of other people are also having the same experience.
Did you ever see the Iwata Asks episode for this game?
No.
Yeah.
I think it was part of that series. Anyways, it used to be on YouTube. I can't find it anymore, but they were talking about the making of the game, and this was made by Nintendo EAD. I mean, that division of Nintendo only came into fruition, I think, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. These dudes, like 100 or so people, they were allowed to just experiment, and they wanted their team to try new things, and they would just try all these different new ideas. Like, it didn't matter how insane the idea sounded, they just wanted to try new things. And a lot of the great things in this game came because of chance. Like, for example, the double cherry. They never actually thought about putting a double cherry or a double Mario or clone any one of the characters in a game. It was just an actual mistake while making the game. But then they tested it. They would test it amongst the staff and see and decide if they thought it was fun or not. And if the mechanic was fun, the power up, the suit, whatever it is, they would keep it in the game. And so when you're playing this game, there's so much variety that it never feels the same. So it kind of feels like a bit like the old Mario games, because clearly there's a lot of similarities, but every level is so different, and there's so many different power-ups and so many different characters, like the 10-second challenges, the power-ups, old and new, from the cat suit to the Tanuki suit, to the invisible bridges that materialize beneath your feet, to the shadow levels, to the
Captain
circus
Toad.
level, Captain Toad, the spooky castle, the dinosaur that you could ride on the water.
Plessy.
Yeah, Plessy. There's just so much to love about this game.
Yeah, it's been a delight. I want to hear Campbell. Campbell, tell me your
Yeah,
thoughts.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of
know-
background. So Campbell has perhaps unfairly maligned this game
Hey.
for many episodes. No, I'm just messing with you.
of
But
course.
I know that you've had some. You weren't as high on it as the rest of us were leading up to this release. So I don't know. What are your opinions?
Yeah, well, Rick, I feel like everything you were just saying was targeted directly towards me, at least subliminally.
No, it wasn't.
But, at the same time, I will say that after playing the game again on Switch, I feel like this kind of game is a prime example of how your reaction to games changes depending on where you are in life at that time, right? So when I first played 3D World, I had just come off of Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, which, as I've mentioned multiple times before, are my two favorite games of all time. I still think Galaxy 1 is better than Galaxy 2. Sorry, Rick, that is, again, another discussion for another day. But I loved those games because of their epic sense of scale and scope, their orchestral music, the ambition, the serious storyline, the constant world building, and the endless inventiveness of the level design. And then when 3D World came out, it essentially looked like an HD blown-up version of 3D Land, which was a great 3DS game, but I was expecting something more ambitious looking for a console game. So when I played 3D World, I was disappointed, essentially, that it wasn't Galaxy 3. I was one of those people.
That makes sense, though, because Galaxy is a superior game, both 1 and 2. It's by far, like, if you're going to make a list of the top 5 Mario games, Galaxy's got to be on the top 5. But the thing is, like, what I'm saying is, this game was made specifically for multiplayer mode. It's made for you to play with 2 or 3 or 4 people. And when I played the game for the first time, I did play it with 3 people. And that's why I fell in love with the game, because I actually think the game is way too hard. Well, not way too hard. It's harder when you play with more than one person. And it's actually too easy when you play by yourself. Because I picked up the game on Friday, and I'm already at the second last level. Like, so I'm at level 10. Because when you get to level 6, basically it opens up a whole new world, and there's a new map and a new map and a new map, and eventually there's like 12 worlds, right? So I'm zooming through the game by myself, and it has a lot to do with the cat suit. But when I was playing, whenever it was like 5-6 years ago with people, I was having a blast, and I thought it was like a lot harder. And so that's the thing. It's like, if you're going to compare, I can understand being disappointed, but the way I look at it is that they were specifically making a game for 2, 3, 4 players, and that's how I'm judging the game based on what they were trying to do. As a single player game, I still think it's a great game, but it's not as fun, I don't think, when you play the game with like 1 or 2 people, so long as those 2 people or 3 people know how to play a Mario game. Like, if they don't know how to play video games, I can see it being frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I did play a lot of it multiplayer with my brother when we first got it, and I've actually been doing that again now that I got it on Switch. And I'll say that, you know, we were both disappointed with it at the time because it wasn't what we wanted. It was a case of it not living up to our expectations. But now today, I think that my mentality has changed. You know, as we get older, and I'm not wanting this grand experience anymore, I just want a fun game, simple enough, right? And I have a newfound appreciation now for this kind of game, this level design philosophy, that these simple linear levels, these creative ideas, it is, like you mentioned, Rick, bursting with so many fun mechanics and cool ideas that even though, yes, it's not the epic, literally globe-trotting Odyssey that Galaxy was. I got 2 references in there, but totally intentional. But it's not that same level of ambition that you have there. But what it is now is something that's really worth celebrating, and I've been actually having a blast with it. My jaded self has been loving 3D World. So,
did you guys ever read the article Isaac wrote on the website about this game?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said it was super underappreciated.
Yes, and he said the best thing, which I've been arguing for years, at the time before Odyssey came out. Although being a very linear video game, really emphasized and motivated players to explore. This game wants you to explore. And this game has such insane replay value. So to get all of the stars, to get all of the stamps, you have to literally cross every single frame, every single block. You have to explore every single level. And yes, the levels are short. Like, you can finish some levels within like 2-3 minutes, but you want to go back in and play it again. And so there's maybe like 1 or 2 levels in this game that I didn't play a second or third time. Like, every time I finished a level, I would jump back in and replay it.
I think it's really impressive, especially today in today's market. You don't have that same level of compact linear level design, really. Like, Odyssey is great, but at the same time, it's so expansive. It's so kind of almost random. Everybody plays it in a different way. Whereas when you play this kind of intricately designed linear game, everything feels handcrafted. Every single block is, like you mentioned, filled with a secret. It has some sort of unique mechanic. Everything keeps ratcheting up the creativity, and it's really impressive, and it's something that you don't see in a lot of games now, and it's something that's really fun to experience now.
Yeah,
it also has the clock.
Yeah,
that's the one thing about Odyssey is I feel like a lot of people, they're not complaint, but what they always say about Odyssey is that they don't find has so much enjoyment playing some of the levels because they just wander around. They're not sure what to do, where to go, and they feel like they're wasting a lot of time. Whereas this game, because you have the timer, you have like what, 2-3 minutes, maybe sometimes even like less than a minute to actually finish a level in a stage. And that's fun. And that is especially fun when you're playing with 2 or 3 people.
Especially when you have those like time constraint levels where you only have like 100 seconds to finish them or 10 seconds to complete a challenge. It's really...
Totally agree. I know Mark wrote the review for the site, but I was going to write a piece about how this game made me appreciate having a time constraint just in so many different ways. Campbell mentioned the 100-second levels, but those short little challenge levels, I love those. That, you know, they're 10 seconds each, and you got to get the green star. I think those are great.
Did anybody here ever finish the game?
The original, or do you mean like the newer version?
I guess the original. I mean, maybe you could have finished the new version too.
I 100% did the original with 3 friends. We literally every single week we played it.
Do you remember what Mario says at the end?
At the ending?
I'll never forget this. So I got the game right around Christmas time. So we started playing on Christmas Eve. A year later on Christmas Eve, like, we finished the game, but we 100% completed the game a year later on Christmas Eve. And at the very end of the game, it says, Mario comes out and he says, "It's me, it's about time." Because it took so long to finish the game. And when you finish the game, it unlocks a bonus game, Luigi Brothers.
Oh, yeah. That I don't... Is that in the new one? The new version, or did they take that out?
I believe it
I don't know.
is, yeah.
I haven't finished a new one yet.
I saw it online that it's still in, yeah.
Because I put way more time, not way more time actually, looking back on it, because it took only 4 hours to beat, but Bowser's Fury was more of my focus. That was the one thing I should have checked, if Luigi Bros was still in the game. I didn't think about that.
We talked about this on the podcast in the past when we reviewed the game, and we had a back and forth, me and Tim, and I want to know what you guys think of the cat suit, because I think the cat suit is great, but I also think it makes the game too easy.
I think it's genius, because it gives you like this reason to try and explore in different ways. Like, if you could figure out how to climb up a wall, you could figure out like a faster route. There's just like, I love how you don't have to go through a clear pipe if you have the cat suit. You can literally either run up the wall, or you can just run across the pipe and do a dive. There's like all sorts of creative ways around everything.
Yeah, but at the same time, it does make the game a cakewalk, or perhaps a catwalk even. It really does eliminate a lot of the challenge that you'd have if you were playing as just regular Mario, or even something like the Tanuki suit or something like that. So,
but the thing is, they wanted Mario to climb walls, which I think is cool, because Mario actually climbed walls before Link ever climbed the wall. It's not the wall climbing that's a problem. It's the fact that you can actually still float in air. You can jump higher and faster, which I guess makes sense because he's a cat. But then what's the point in having the Tanuki suit?
Because the Tanuki suit's for like floating and stuff.
I think just continuity with 3D Land at that point, you know. So the Tanuki suit still, like you mentioned, provides the floating, and it also has a kind of I don't know what you call a tail twirl or something. So it still has its unique merits. But yeah, the cat suit is absolutely the main draw mechanically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool. I think I want to push back a little bit that it makes it too easy. Like, there's definitely sections where, because the attack is short range, like there's definitely situations where I would prefer to have a fire flower versus the cat suit. But there's definitely some sections where you can. I appreciate that you can create your own shortcuts and stuff by running up the walls and things like that. There are definitely moments where the cat suit shines.
For sure. And they added a lot of power-ups that are there specifically for you to complete a level. I feel the game's easy right up until you defeat Bowser, like level 6 really. Once you get past level 6, it becomes really hard. And I remember the last world, I'm not there yet, I'm on level 10, but level 11, level 12, I remember being so hard.
Do you mean world?
World
1, world 2, world 3. Okay.
Yeah, I
only
love that.
When I 100%ed it with 3 other friends, we only got trapped on one level, and it was the literal last level of the game, Champions Road.
Sorry, I just trying to remember which one Champions Road is.
It's literally the final level, like the last possible level in the game.
Yeah, I can't really remember. It's been so long.
Everyone says it's like the hardest 3D Mario level ever made.
I mean, I'm not going to argue, because I remember it took forever for us to finish that last world. And I remember every single level in that world just being super, super tough. While I do think the catsuit can make a lot of the levels easy to complete, I think the double cherry power-up makes it actually tougher, especially when you're playing multiplayer mode. It's chaos. Like, chaos.
I messed around with multiplayer in 3D World. I messed around with it in Bowser's Fury, which I'm sure we'll get to. But the 3D World, I haven't messed around with the multiplayer at all yet. Just because I would have to play it online, which I have not done yet.
Okay.
You haven't tested out the online at all?
I have not, no.
I did a little with a friend.
And?
Let's just say Bebop Skyblock is a no-go. But a lot of the simple levels like worked perfectly. That was like the only level where I had trouble.
I cannot imagine playing this online. Like, I would think you would need someone to sit next to you so you can actually communicate properly.
Well, not if you use like FaceTime or phone call or
maybe, yeah. But I mean, I remember this being a really tough game to play multiplayer mode on those later levels. It's just hard, because especially when you have the cherry and you multiply, and then your partner multiplies, so you have like 4 Luigis, 4 Marios, 4 Toads, 4 Peaches all on the same screen. It's chaos, and you don't really know which one to follow. So yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I think that, you used the word ingenious before, and there's a lot of things and aspects about this game that I feel are kind of ingenious, and that is one of the reasons why I think that this game is bursting with imagination and just ideas that no one's ever thought of putting into a platformer prior to 2015 or 2014, whenever the game was released. I mean, even a simple idea like adding Captain Toad's puzzle game inside the game, which is fantastic, and then he himself gets his own game later on the Wii U, and it's also just a very simple way to get an additional like 10 stars or 7 stars, but it adds variety. And you have power-ups like the ice skates, you have the cannon box, you have by the way, the Goomba costume. You can play as a Goomba, okay? A Goomba. Greatest game ever.
Absolutely. That is probably one of my favorite power-ups in it as well.
So good.
So good. One of the reasons why we call this site Goomba Stomp. I just have to say that this soundtrack
is incredible.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it is incredible. Like, I forgot how good the soundtrack was. It is. I hate using the word was because it's not past tense, it's present tense, because it still is fantastic. It's amazing. It's one of the best soundtracks. It nails the old sense of adventure. It feels modern at the same time. It's just everything I would want for a soundtrack for a Mario game.
I believe I said this in the review, but I think I called it an earworm and a blast.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And it really nails that just free-flowing, carefree, just having a good time vibe that you get when you're playing 3D World. And yeah, it's not the epic orchestral masterwork. Again, I keep comparing it to Galaxy, but that's just where I'm at with this game. But
Well, it's worth
I think this is the
polar
best
opposite.
Mario soundtrack.
Well, it's worth
Okay, no,
mentioning-
Galaxy 2 and Galaxy 1 have a lot to say to that. But
There's so much good stuff in this one. I love the villain's theme. Like the Mario's theme is always marketable, but Bowser's theme in this game is so damn good. It's just like the
so,
best
like,
track
so
in the whole
funky.
thing.
No, it's worth mentioning that Koji Kondo actually took a step back with the soundtrack.
Right, but they still use his old music, is what I'm saying. They remix a lot of his old tracks, and they have the new tracks.
It's worth shouting out that the guy who did the music for Galaxy also worked on a ton of the music for this game, I think.
Yeah, he did.
So
hear that,
credit where
Campbell?
credit's due, I think.
I do hear that, and I think
Yeah,
that
that-
speaks to the composer's brilliance. And let's not put these two soundtracks against each other. Instead, let's just
Exactly.
realize they're two brilliant masterworks in their own way. So,
Wait a minute. We don't want to start pitting Mario against Mario. You're the one that's making this like a whole like argument. Which one's better? Which one's not?
Mark was saying it's the best one, and then
I
was
did
like,
say it was the best
Yeah,
one.
so
but
I
saying
blame
it's
Mark
the best
for
one
this
is
one.
like, that's like saying which Mario 3D, which 3D Mario game is the best 3D platformer. It's like,
I mean, it's
they're
still
all so
Galaxy,
different and
but whatever.
stuff.
Yeah, but it depends on
Wow.
how you look at it, because like I said, they sample so much of Koji Kondo's music from the past, from previous games, and they have the new track, so there's so much of it. Like, it's such a massive soundtrack, so it could be considered the best because you have so much to play with and listen
Oh wait,
to.
this will settle the debate. Campbell, what's your favorite track from Galaxy?
Ah, man, that's so difficult. I mean,
It's the one that's in this game.
it's not.
I was
actually.
literally about to
It
say
is
that.
literally not. It is either Bowie Base or Rosalina's Observatory. So,
I was gonna say
but
Gusty Garden
Gusty
Galaxy,
Garden is
yeah.
incredible though, and it deserves. I love the jazz arrangement in 3D World. It's incredible.
You do realize that in this game you can play with Mario, Luigi, Toad, Peach, all the 4 characters from Super Mario Bros. 2, and Rosalina.
Yes, I know Rosalina's in this game, and it's amazing. Again, I'm not going to argue the fact that this game is paying tribute to something that's objectively better than it is, but I still appreciate 3D World for what it is. And you know what? Let's not pit it against anything else and appreciate for it in its own right. And I do love the way the soundtrack pays tribute to so much of Mario's history, and really that's what the game does. All told, it really gathers a lot of what's best in the series.
And speaking of what's best, Bowser's Fury is so damn good.
It is the best add-on to any Wii U port that we've gotten
now,
to Switch.
I talked about Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected and the Pikmin 3 Deluxe missions on the podcast before, which I said that those were good additions. It was cool how Nintendo was able to make more content for these games that were like over a decade old. But this is the way to do it. This is like perfection.
You know what? This is something I've actually been thinking of writing an article about. But Bowser's Fury is one of the things that made me fall in love with 3D World this time around. Because 3D World has this very clear, linear, straightforward level design. Yes, there's the exploration. Yes, there's all the new ideas you have in each level, but it's still very straightforward.
Yeah, it's
Bowser's
point A to
Fury
B.
is the exact opposite of that. It is literally an open world Mario game, and that's incredible. You can go anywhere. It's Mario Breath of the Wild, essentially, you know, and it's just this crazy balance. The fact that it's pairing these two polar opposites together is really remarkable, and it makes me appreciate what 3D World does so much more, and it really makes me appreciate the freedom that you get with Bowser's Fury as well.
Mm-hmm. It has the same three flaws as Super Mario 3D World, though, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
Which is?
And what are those?
So 3D World does not have any great, epic, iconic boss battles, but that is what I think is sort of like a minor nitpick or flaw. And also, Yoshi's not in the game.
But you do have Plessy, though, and I think Plessy is...
Really? We're going to compare Plessy to Yoshi?
In terms of Bowser's Fury, you know, just like how Yoshi enables you to reach new areas and mechanics and stuff in other Mario games, Plessy enables you to explore all of Lake... what's it called? Cat Lap? Or Lap Cat.
Lap Cat, yeah.
Lap Cat, yes. Either way, it's a cat.
I just feel like Yoshi should be in the game. I think Yoshi is the only character, the only thing that's really missing in 3D World, and I think he would make a great addition to Bowser's Fury. Like, I like this new direction. If this is what the new Mario is going to be, to me, that's a good thing. Like, I fell in love with Bowser's Fury. I'm not even entirely sure why there's some people who do not like this game. Once again, I don't understand what people want. Like, I feel like people are just... They don't seem satisfied or happy with any Mario game these days. I say these people. There's like a minority, but I
was about to say the reception for Odyssey has been more than positive.
And
but there's people who are complaining about it.
Yeah, but people are loving, from what I've seen, people are loving Bowser's Fury as well, and recognizing it as what is essentially a bonus to a port of a game that would already be worth paying $60 for on its own. You essentially get this free 4 to 8 hour additional package of content thrown onto it, and it's not just like bonus levels. It is a brand new idea, and it's really ambitious and exciting. The Bowser fights are incredible. Like,
they are.
Yeah, like, I don't know what you're talking about, Rick. We're talking about not having the epic battles. It has one, but
Bowser's really Fury, Godzilla.
I know, right?
Okay, I wrote that on my in my Twitter account. Godzilla, cats, and Mario. What more could you want? But the thing is, Super Mario 3D World, I don't think has enough great boss battles. And in this game, you have the great boss battle fight, whatever, with Bowser, but it's the same thing over and over. So I understand that this is sort of an added bonus to the game, and I'm excited to see what they do if they turn this into an actual full blown out game, like the next Mario game is going to look like this. That excites me. But it would be great if we had more than just Bowser to fight like every single time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing over and over. It looks great. It's cool. And I love Godzilla, but I want a bit more variety. So
well, we did in Super Mario Odyssey. You know, we had all the different types of rabbits, and then, you know.
Which is great. And if they could do that with the next game, then that's amazing. But to me, like, this is just... It's the next step. It's what Mario needs next. Like, Odyssey is pretty much close to what this game, Bowser's Fury, is. Like, it's the closest in terms of like its open world concept. But this game, in terms of like the actual platforming, it feels more akin to Super Mario 3D World. So it feels like a good companion piece, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is. And, you know, again, talking about the kind of complaints I had about the lack of grandeur and stuff that you had in 3D World, you absolutely have this incredible level of ambition and seriousness and scope and scale in Bowser's Fury. The fact that every time you're completing a challenge, you know that Fury Bowser is waiting for you. He could show up at any moment, you know, and that level adds a excellent level of just like tension to a Mario game, and that level of almost like fear as you're trying to complete these challenges is something unlike anything else that I've played in the series, which is really
Sorry, I know I'm talking so much, but if I could just say one more thing. So when you mentioned the suspense and the fear, so in the game there's one level where everything spins. I forget the name of the level right now. And
I know the one you're talking about.
I just kept dying and dying and
I
dying.
had the exact same experience with that one. That was horrible.
So, but at the very end, when I'm just about to get to like the last platform, like about to get the what is it, like a star, the coin, whatever you call it,
cat shine, I believe.
The cat shine. Thank you. Bowser shows up. So, it starts to get windy and there's like a storm and it starts to rain and then Bowser shows up and it was like I was just right there. And so you feel the suspense because you're trying to get to the very end of the level and he shows up, which makes it almost impossible because the level is spinning and this dude's trying to like kill you with his like massive fireballs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love how he's spinning in the middle of the lake, and it's just like it's the same thing with Majora's Mask with the falling moon. It's like this giant ticking time bomb in the middle of the map, and you just know when it's about to go off.
Multiple times throughout my playthrough, I would like anxiously flip the camera around to be like, okay, how fast is he spinning? Okay, I've got a little more time. Okay, no, he's spinning fast. I gotta run, So it's really exciting. Not only that, how he adds a level of urgency, but they also use his abilities or his attacks as like puzzle elements to break the Bowser
He's more
blocks.
than a boss battle.
Exactly, which means that it's not just like, oh no, he's here, gotta run for it. That's like, you're actually waiting for him sometimes to be like, okay, I see Bowser blocks here in this level. That's the last cat shine I need to get. I need to lure him over here, and then we'll get the shine, right? So it's both that level of suspense and strategy, and it's really cool that they could do both of that with one mechanic.
Have you guys finished the game?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I am at like 96 cat shines, I think.
Okay.
Damn.
There's only
way ahead of
100. Yeah.
Yeah, there are only 100. But if you're talking about like the main campaign as well, I finished that last night, and that ending is absolutely incredible as well. That final sequence is honestly one of my favorite endings of any Mario game.
Does Yoshi show up?
Well, if we're talking about Plessy, yes, but
I really, what's it called? Bowser's Fury has been great. I'm playing it with my wife. She's playing as Bowser Jr. Painting those power-ups for me. It's great. Really, really, really a delightful game and add-on, as you guys have already expounded upon extensively. I don't have much more to add other than
I have a question for you.
Please.
So you're playing it with your wife and she's playing with Bowser Jr. How is that for her? Is it fun? Because it just feels like it's a little too easy.
For her, it's just right. Because she doesn't play a lot of video games. Like 2D stuff is fine. 3D stuff is a little harder for her. She has trouble with the two analog sticks. But Bowser Jr. is great because even if I'm like running off doing my own thing, she can just tap the shoulder buttons and like teleport right to my side. So far, it's been all right. No complaints just yet. I mean, and also it helps that the game is so relentlessly charming that even if it's like not that exciting to be Bowser Jr., it's still like fun to like zoom around and look at all the cats. So we've been enjoying it so far. I don't know if we'll play the whole.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you notice that the grass was cat fur?
No, I did not.
Check it out.
I was thinking about doing a piece of like 5 things that only cat lovers will notice from Bowser's Fury. I don't know.
I love it how the cats turn evil when Bowser shows up.
Oh my
that
God,
was the most
so
surprising thing, but I loved that.
I was inches away from uniting the Daisy Cats. By the way, that's what they're called. I know I predicted that Daisy would be playable. Didn't happen. But they're called Daisy Cats, the big ones.
Didn't know that, but great.
But I was so close to dropping off the last cat to get the shine. And then Bowser arrived and the thing, goes haywire.
It's funny.
Yeah,
It's like yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was actually going to talk about something a little different, but I'll just say that I've also been playing it co-op most of the time, and it's actually been an amazing experience. I've really enjoyed it because I've been playing Mario, my brother's playing Bowser Jr., and it's great because you really do have to work together to the point of like, oh, there's a cat shard or whatever it's called over there, go grab that, and oh, here's a painting, you can grab that, or can you get that enemy for me? And it's a really nice level of teamwork, and it's great how it's still clear that, the player who controls Mario is the one who's in control. But unlike, say, something like, not to bring up Galaxy again, but in that game, multiplayer meant that just one player controlled the little, Luma, right? And you could just pick up star bits and that's it. Whereas you do have a bit more control this time around. That is a really nice addition.
Yeah,
it's
I
great
like
if you have kids.
It's exactly what it's for. It's for people who are not experienced with games, who just like kind of want to watch something fun on screen and still participate. I think it's a nice addition. But it would be cool to see something more in depth in the style of the world with multiplayer. So who knows what they'll come up with in the future. What else? What else about Bowser's Fury / Super Mario 3D World?
I wish the soundtrack was longer.
Yeah,
Sure,
but
yeah.
think about what tracks you do have. I mean, the
Yeah,
Fury
they are-
tracks you do
they're
have
really
are
good.
amazing, especially
Yeah.
the Fury Bowser themes. Those are legitimately incredible, and I can't believe they're in a Mario game of all things. You have this literal heavy metal theme for Bowser, and it sounds like it's even Bowser doing the vocals, which is amazing.
Yeah, I love that. When the electric guitar starts up, I think it's awesome.
Or
It's
there's
just-
so much more on the soundtrack too. Like, just now that I'm thinking about it, it encompasses so many different themes and styles. You have classic orchestral, you have upbeat like violins and folk music. Even if it's not that many tracks, encapsulates so many styles, so much variety. It's really a treat for music lovers. So
That's true. As our resident musician on the podcast, I guess you would know.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a delightful freaking game. And check out Marc's review if you haven't yet. His two separate reviews, I should
Yeah,
say.
two
one
separate
for
reviews.
one for Bowser's Fury and one for Mario 3D World on Switch. Just a great it's kind of like a nice history overview, as well as just a really solid review in general. So like, props to you for both of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm upset about, though, is that they released the Amiibo. So, of course, I had to buy the Amiibo. But I don't understand why we didn't get a Giga-Cat Mario Amiibo. Like a giant
Yeah, that's crazy,
Giga-Cat
yeah.
Mario Amiibo.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
They already had a huge was it Yoshi amiibo, right, for the yarn?
Yes,
yeah,
Mega Yarn Yoshi.
Exactly.
It's on my shelf.
They also had a Pooch.
Yes, Poochie.
right.
Yeah. So how is there not Mega Giga Cat Mario? I want to see it.
I want a life-size Giga-Cat Mario, something that's
That would be
larger than my
terrifying.
house. Yes, let's do it.
Oh man, just to match up with your 12-foot Home Depot skeleton.
Absolutely, yes.
Put them all together.
Spooky season, y'all.
Yeah, it's an incredible release. We've all been enjoying it. And Rick, I thank you for providing the context for the existence of this podcast. I don't think I knew that. In relation to Mario 3D World.
Yeah. We talked about on the last episode I recorded with Tim and Patrick, but I'm not even sure if it made the cut because it was a long episode when we had to edit here and there. But yeah.
Yeah, a little history. It goes a long way. I love it. Anything else you want to shout out before we wrap it up? We're running kind of long.
Just a little.
But
Just
there's
a
a lot
little
to say.
bit.
It's a great game, interesting direct.
Speed change was very good.
Yeah, we did
I was
touch on
very
that.
curious how, because the original one, I talked about this in the review, but it went from being this slow and methodical game to something that's like fast yet reflex challenging.
Like, I'll say that as I've been playing through it, I literally feel like a daredevil at times where you break out into a run and you're like, okay, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
Like, there have been times where it gets ahead of me and, I do something too risky because I'm going too fast. I'm not thinking through all my moves, right? But it is fun and it creates, like, a really interesting pace compared to what you had originally.
Okay, so I do have one last thing to say. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get the sequel to Sunshine, because they included Sunshine in the 3DS pack. Clearly, there's callbacks to Sunshine in this game. It all makes sense.
I 100% agree. And I think...
Rick, are you
and-
saying your worst fear is coming true?
Hey, if they give us a really good sequel to Sunshine, that'll be a good thing. And I
We
don't
don't
think
need a
Sunshine is
sequel. It was already so good.
No, Sunshine's a good game with a lot of problems for a Mario game. I think we're not going to talk about Sunshine now. I kind of feel like Sunshine's the kind of Mario game that you should remake because the fans are divided. Like some people just hate it, some people love it. So it's a good game to either remake or have a sequel to.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned Yoshi earlier, and I think I love the way Yoshi was implemented into Sunshine, but I think there's definitely room to do Yoshi in a game like this, which would be another great Sunshine callback. So yeah, I think the time is right for a revival of Super Mario Sunshine. Totally agree.
Hey, you know what, Mark? If they give us a sequel to Sunshine and it's good, and we also get a bunch of GameCube games on Switch, I would be like the happiest person in the world.
I would be very happy too, especially with GameCube, because I thought today with the Direct we were gonna get Game Boy Online, and we didn't. Again.
Yet again, didn't happen. It's okay. You know what? It's okay. It was still plenty to talk about. You know, plenty of interesting content.
GBA icons are in the Switch code. And there's no GBA.
Someday it'll happen.
Probably.
That being said, there's plenty to look forward to in the future. But as we're waiting for the future to arrive, enjoy your time with 3D World and Bowser's Fury, and speculate with us about the future of Mario and his 3D antics, because this is definitely a step in the right direction, I think, for what's to come. That being said, we're going to wrap it up here because this is a mega pod today. I've been your host, Cameron Daxon. You can find some of our writing over at goombastomp.com. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Mark, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at the Markel, and that's Mark with a C and Cal with a K. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn if you're into that kind of thing. I do weekly articles on WandaVision currently, which it is coming to an end in 3 weeks, sadly. But you can check out those. I have a Mario article, another one coming out. But if you want to look at my Bowser's Fury review, I have that. And then I have a separate comparison of 3D World and its re-release, which you can also check out.
Absolutely. And Campbell, what about you?
Yeah, you can find all my writing at goombastomp.com, and if you want to catch me on social media, you can find me at my, as always, pretentious Twitter handle at uppercase Campbell S. Gill, uppercase CSG. And if you want to connect with me on my professional network, you can check me out on LinkedIn at Campbell Gill. Please, somebody connect with me. I'm at 99 connections. I just want to get to a 100. And that's all.
I love it. And Ricky D, where can we find you?
I mean, over at Goomba Stomp, right? I still do podcasts, not doing this podcast on a weekly basis anymore, but I'm doing a wrestling podcast because it's just so much easier. And I'm still doing the Sorted Cinema movie podcast, but on Twitter, it's Sorted Cinema, and everything can be found over at goombastomp.com. And if you love Nintendo and you love to write about Nintendo, you should shoot me an email because we're always looking for writers.
I was just about to shout that out. Thank you for calling attention to that. Where can they send those emails to?
Editor@goombastomp.com, and make sure that you put in the subject line that you're applying for a writer position.
Perfect.
It also helps that if you say you listen to the podcast, you're going to be put to the top of the pile. And
There
believe
you
me,
go.
we get applications on a daily basis. It's insane.
Yeah. As special treatment for the fans of the podcast, I think that's more than fair. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a blast. Rick, thank you for coming on. I know you love Mario 3D World, and you were definitely the top person to come on the show for this specific episode. So thank you for taking the time.
Well, I was emotional playing the game because
Yeah.
just, was thinking about the podcast and thinking about playing it for the first time when I originally got the game in like 2014, 2015, whatever year it was. And it was just, it makes me miss the podcast, but it's a lot of work. And I know how much work you guys put into the podcast because I used to do it. And I always say this, and I'm going to say it one last time, doing a video game podcast is hard because there's so much time needed to play the games, complete the games, do research, process your thoughts, discuss the game on the podcast, edit the podcast, upload it to the internet, promote the podcast. Like, holy cow. Maybe one day I'll come back full time if one of you leaves.
Well, we would love to have you anytime. Honestly, like you always bring such great like energy and opinion. So we always appreciate you being on the show.
Just make sure you never invite that Patrick Murphy guy on the show. He's trouble.
I love it.
Him
well,
and his
that,
opinions.
Him as Majora's
tisk,
Mask
tisk.
opinion.
that being said, thank you so much for listening. Be safe out there, guys. Crazy weather events in the world. Be prepared. All that stuff. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening.